Hi everyone, let's do a quick drive of this 2025 Chevrolet Equinox LT all-wheel drive with the convenience package. A little bit of air moving around in here. And before we set off, let's take a quick peek at our visibility. Here are our external mirrors right here. They are a little on the small side, but they're just fine in terms of sizing. You can see they're also heated right there. You can see here's our visibility over the hood. It's a little compromised here on each side over here, just of how the shape is. It looks pretty cool, but it does compromise that visibility just a bit. You can see here's about accurate in terms of where I will be sitting, and I can see this screen just fine, as well as this one. The big steering wheel does help with that, having a good amount of space in between here. And going through the rest of the vehicle, not very good visibility. So, this pillar is pretty thick. That pillar is massive. And then we have this rear headrest situation, plus that whole bulkiness in the rear. That little window there is barely usable. So yeah, the rear visibility is not great, but we do have our 360-degree camera here to help out, as well as our digital rear view mirror as well. So you do have that going on for you, along with rear parking sensors and a couple other things that kind of help you out on that front. But with that being said, let's go ahead and take off. This has the carryover 1.5 liter turbo engine from the previous generation, making around 175, 178 horsepower and 203 foot-pounds of torque, something like that. It rides pretty well. It's pretty anemic in terms of the engine itself. It doesn't have a lot of power. It also sounds pretty terrible, even for its 4-cylinder. Being tall, I kind of have to look out the rear view mirror or rear window at a time like this. And one of the biggest complaints that I actually have with this vehicle is, one, the visibility, but that's kind of helped out with a couple of these different features, but also the interior noise is really high. Like, this is one of the highest interior noise vehicles I've been in a little while now. It's pretty unbearable. You get up to 70, 80 plus miles an hour, and it is really loud in here. You're almost shouting to even talk to your passenger. The sound system is decent for being the base 6-speaker sound system. Has pretty good all over the range. It gets a little interesting at higher volumes, but anywhere lower to middle volumes is pretty solid with it. It is not good enough to drown out the sound of this interior, though, of how just loud it is in here. And that's definitely gonna be my #1 complaint. Also, for gas mileage, this is rated something in the realm of 24 miles per gallon city, and then 29 on the highway, which is pretty bad for a car with pretty low horsepower at this point in the game. So just things to keep in mind. I got something in the realm of probably mid to high 20s on my trip yesterday, so just keep that in mind. The other thing is this Waze. So I use Waze, and you can see here, if we go back through all these different screens, the Google Maps integration, which also it has in this kind of screen here, is pretty good. But when we switch from this Google Maps page to the Waze page, you can see it's not optimized for this at all. We've got some weird white marking there. When you're actually on a trip, like the ETA and miles left, things like that will be right here, and they're kind of cut off, so you can tell it wasn't meant for this and kind of just retrofitted. So kind of a surprising decision on General Motors' part to do that. One of the cool things about this is it does have the adaptive cruise control, and just overall the tech, the 360 camera, digital rear view mirror, etc. It's pretty loaded with tech. And this being the base model right here, you do still get a digital dash, even though it's a little on the smaller side, as well as this pretty good sized screen right here, which is pretty quick, speedy. I actually really enjoy it. In terms of driving dynamics, as I said earlier, it's pretty slow. It doesn't have a lot of pep in its step. So you really got to kind of work the 1.5 liter to really do much. It has good steering weight at lower speeds, especially when you get into higher speeds, and it varies it to be a lot lighter. It's a little harrowing the first time you're, kind of make a pretty quick lane change, for example, but it's not terrible. The transmission, being this 8-speed, is pretty well suited. It does try to shift pretty quick for gas mileage, I'm assuming. The gas pedal and kind of linearness and stuff like that is pretty not great. It's kind of herky-jerky in here in general. The braking as well is not my favorite. It's okay, but here, I'll go ahead and brake. It comes on a little slow, and then when you really get into it, it's a little kind of throw your head forward jerky. And then, yeah, just overall not my favorite. Kind of braking and just overall the driving inputs of this vehicle are really not great. It also kind of just feels like a truck in a lot of senses in terms of how it rides, and not in a good way, if that makes sense. It has a lot of body roll, a lot of commotion, even though this is a unibody. So just something to keep in mind, and this is my experience, of course, so yours may vary. It does also have a dead pedal here. The switches and actual buttons and stuff like that in here also leave a lot to be desired. They're kind of flimsy in terms of their actuation. They don't feel really well. These ones right here make a lot of weird sound, and they're also this piano black plastic that's going to scratch really bad. This whole interior has quite a bit of that. And then we also have like our turn signal. This might be the crappiest sounding turn signal stock I've used in a really long time. It has really long travel to actually actuate that turn signal, and then it's just a really overloaded stock. Like, just take a peek at it. It's got so much information on there and so much stuff here, from your high beams, your turn signals, your windshield wiper stocks, both front and rear, since this is of course a crossover. So overall, just pretty overloaded. And now just coming up to 70 miles an hour just for a quick second. Not sure if the mic is able to pick that up too well, but it is really loud in here, even just at 70 miles an hour. So overall, you know, just it's definitely a little unrefined in that regard. Also, in terms of where you're putting your hands and your arms and stuff like that for driving ergonomics, as I said earlier, this one does have the 8-way power adjustable seat because it has the convenience package, which really helps to kind of get you in that where you want to be nice and comfortable. These Evotech seats are pretty good, really cushy on this one when you kind of sit into it, so pretty comfortable in that. Being on a 3-hour road trip yesterday, they were pretty good. There goes that turn signal again, just sounds and feels so the steering wheel is definitely the highlight of this vehicle. While it could use some bolstering like here, it's still pretty solid. It's got a really thick, chunky feeling to it. It's a nice, soft, supple leather. This where you put your armrest, or this where you put your arm, and this where you put your arm, are really off center, so the center console is much higher. So it's a little weird in that regard, kind of shifts you a little weird. And they're just in general not very comfortable. Go a little bit of juice here. That was probably like 3/4 throttle. It's pretty slow. I would guess something around like 10 seconds in an actual real world 0 to 60 on this, which in 2025 is painfully slow, especially for the gas mileage that it gets. Which kind of brings me to the whole point of this car. While I like the refresh for the most part, in terms of the looks, the tech, those are all good features about it. But one of the biggest things that I'm just feeling that this is still lacking at this point is a good refined engine, better driving dynamics in general, and then also just around the ergonomics of it being a little bit higher quality. Thanks for watching this video though. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.